Hey guys, it's me again. In this video, I want to do a more in-depth review for Stallone's 1996 Just Dredd. Uh, I reviewed it a couple of days ago and wanted to go back and rewatch it and give a more in-depth review for it because there's some things I skipped over, didn't touch on, and all that. So, the first thing I noticed when I rewatched it is that they did something that Marvel does now in their movies, where they will have the various comic covers and whatnot flash on screen. And that was in '95 when they did that. You know, Marvel did it with, I think it was Iron Man or whatever, when they first started. Maybe earlier with Eric Bana's Incredible Hulk, but don't quote me on that one because I don't have that movie. But anyway, I thought it was pretty interesting that they did it first. Uh, the movie is really, the music is really good. Uh, I have a pair of real crappy speakers that I have hooked up to my laptop and my TV. And even with those garbage speakers, the audio is really, really good. So that's one reason I wish I could have seen this in theaters to get that full Dolby sound, you know. The voiceover when it starts by what's that guy's name? He does the voice of Darth Vader, whoever he is. I forgot his name right now, but that just sets the detail, tell you what's going on. It's really good, and it's nice that they got him to do the voiceover. Uh, and the third thing I thought was really interesting is all through the movie. I don't want to use the word epic because that's everybody uses that word and it gets kind of trite and cliched. But everything about this movie, the it's just expansive. That's the word I'm looking for. The scene shots of the cursed Earth, uh, Mega City, it looks crowded and dirty and just it looks, very different from what you saw, I think, in the 2012 reboot or whatever. It just it has that grimy feel to it that I like, you know. Uh, when uh, when you see the scenes of the courtroom and the actual the squad room, everything has this real expansive feel to it, immense, like it's a real place. The designers did a good job on this movie. Uh, it actually feels like I know when the movie first comes on, and that guard is watching that shuttlecraft go into Mega City gates, and the cursed Earth feels expansive. Uh, Mega City feels expansive, and I like the way where it seems like Mega City is like divided into, for lack of a better word, upper and lower districts. It feels like the top levels are maybe for the ritzy class, and the lower level, the lower you get, like the grimier it gets. You know, I like that feel to it. Uh, but the shuttlecraft goes into the city. The prisoners they disembark, and that's where you meet Fergie, played by Rob Schneider. Uh, he got a little bit annoying, but his lines were decent. I just watched it again, like I said, and I've seen the movie I don't know how many times in the last 20 odd years, and I still get a little chuckle out of his lines, even though I can practically uh, recite the lines, verbatim throughout the entire movie. I've seen it so many times. But he lands, he gets out, goes to his boarding room, and there's a block war going on, just a riot going on. He gets caught up in that, Judge Dredd comes on the scene with his fellow squad mates. There's some random rookie guy, and Judge Hershey, played by Diane Lane. She does a really good job as well. Uh, they take out the bandits of that block war, and then here comes uh, one of the reporters named Hammond. He does a report, and he's been doing his job, finding out some corruption and whatnot going on. So the deal is to silence him. So then you meet the main bad guy, played by Armand Asante. He's Judge Rico. He's locked up in a cell in Aspen Colony. It's a prison. And he gets out, makes his way back to Mega City, picks up his gear, and that's where my first criticism is right there. He goes into this pawn shop, and once again, you get an outside shot of Mega City, and once again, it looks grimy, it looks dirty, it looks crowded. Looks like you can catch any disease you want to just by walking the streets, you know? It just looks gross. But he goes into a pawn shop, picks up his gear, which is a judge's uniform, and the gun, the lawgiver. And he shoots the pawn shop owner. And this is where my first criticism is right here. He sees one of the, it's supposed to be a decommissioned ABC robot. ABC short for atomic, biological, and chemical. But and to get the thing working, all he does is connect two wires. That bugged me when I first saw it, and 20 plus years later, it still bugs me when I see that scene. So anyway, Rico and Hammond meet up. They discuss plans. So they frame Judge Dredd for the murder of the reporter Hammond and his wife. And there's my second criticism. Okay, Judge Rico, he comes through the door, and within 2 or 3 seconds of him coming through the door, Hammond immediately knows it's Dredd. And we don't know it's Dredd until the camera zooms in on his badge. Literally, 2 or 3 seconds after Rico busts into the house, Hammond knows it's Dredd. It could have been anybody, you know? But he says Dredd, and that's it. I thought that was kind of lame. So after Hammond and his wife is killed, Judge Hershey is arresting some drunk. Dredd comes on the scene. He blows up the guy's car, and here comes the judge hunters. They're dressed in all black. Looks kind of like a stormtrooper almost from Star Wars, but they're dressed in all black. They've got really cool guns, almost like a shotgun or something. And I remember them from the video game on the SNES Judge Dredd game. They were really tough to kill, man. Those judge hunters. So they arrest Dredd for murder. Then comes the courtroom scene, which was pretty cool. You get more in-depth workings of their pistol, which I think is a pretty good system. If they could ever get it working now, that would be pretty good to stop a lot of these school shootings and whatnot, you know? But anyway, so Dredd gets convicted, and this is the scene that reminds me of, if you guys have seen I think the 56 or 59, I forget what year it is, version of the Ten Commandments with Yul Brynner and Charlton Heston. There's a scene where after Moses pretty much denies his Egyptian birthright, for lack of a better word. They kick him out of Egypt. And that scene reminds me of the scene in Judge Dredd, or vice versa, when they strip him of his armor and all that stuff. And there's a voiceover where they said something like, "Let's strike his name from every of your memory and hearts and all that kind of stuff." It reminds me of the scene in Ten Commandments where they pretty much said the same thing. So Dredd is on his way to Aspen in order to save Judge Dredd's life. Chief Justice Fargo has to take his long walk, which is him getting kicked out of Mega City 1. So a little bit of time passes, I'm sure. So Dredd gets on his spacecraft going to Aspen Colony. And just so happens that Fergie is on that spacecraft as well. They're sitting right next to each other, you know. They're flying over the desert due to some storm clouds, which is convenient for the Angel family. There's a bunch of cannibals up there. So they shoot down the spacecraft, capture Dredd and Fergie. And there's a little bit of back and forth. And the special effects, man, and this is what gets me. This is why I like, say, late 90s on back when it comes to action movies. Because they didn't rely too heavy on CGI. I carefully watched this movie, and for it to be a rated R movie, it feels like a PG-13, to be honest. There's really not that much blood and guts. But when there is blood, it's actual squibs, you know? I think I said that on my last video. But it's actual squibs, and the special effects are really, really good. I actually looked at Mean Machine, and those special effects, the makeup is still really good, you know? The only bits of CGI I found was later on in the movie, and I'll get to that later on. But there's some back and forth between Fergie and the Angel family and Dredd. They get cut down. There's a fight. The Judge Hunters show up. Dredd kills off the Angel family. He kills off the Judge Hunters. And then there's a little bit of back and forth between Fergie and Dredd. Then one of the hunters grabs a gun, aims it at Dredd, and he's killed by Chief Justice Fargo. They talk a bit, and Mean Machine stabs Fargo. Dredd takes him out, and while he's dying, Chief Justice Fargo, played by Max von Sydow, or Sydow, not sure how to pronounce his name. You've seen him in a bunch of movies. He tells Dredd the whole deal with the Janus Fouls and all that. How Rico was a clone. Matter of fact, they both were clones and all that. Dredd happened to be the best of the batch, while Rico was the worst of the worst. So they put two and two together. They found out that's how he was framed for murder. So after Chief Justice dies, Fergie and Dredd head back to Mega City. So they head back to Mega City. They make their way back to the police station, and they escape after Dredd gets a new set of judge armor. And this is where the CGI, well, it's technically not CGI, but this is where the special effects kind of falter. And I say that not in a bad way, because they did the exact same thing in Aliens, which came out in '86, and The Fugitive, which I believe was 90 or 91. But in Aliens, where they have a screen in the back and the actors in is being filmed while there's something going on the screen. They're standing in front of the screen. I don't know what the technical term is, but there's a scene in Aliens where I believe when the alien attacks Pharaoh, I believe, inside the space shuttle, and it crashes onto the planet. You can tell that's happening on the screen while the other actors are in front of the screen. And I believe the same thing happens in The Fugitive during that train wreck, I believe, with Harrison Ford running and the train is crashing behind him. But while the Judge Hunters are chasing Dredd and him and Fergie hop on that Lawmaster and they're escaping and there's explosions behind them, you can tell that's an actual projection screen. But that's the only part where you can tell, a special effects. There's a couple of bits of pieces where of flames and fire you can tell, but it's very minimal. They did a good job with either the matte paintings or miniatures and stuff like that, or actually making things, making the vehicles and stuff look futuristic and actual functional. I don't know if some of those vehicles were miniatures or not, but I did remember looking at the production book that I ran across at my library a couple of years back, and said that they had a hard time making those Lawmaster cycles actually work. It was long they had a tough time making them work. But there's some more scenes with Rico and Griffin, one of the other bad guys. They've got this plan to release some more clones because a lot of judges are being killed. So Dredd and Fergie meet back up with Judge Hershey. They put two and two together, find out where the hideout is, which is near the Statue of Liberty. They go in, take out take out Rico and the other judge, and that's one of my other concerns, and it's so minor, but when they're caught by God, I just said the guy's name, the other judge, the bad guy, Enrico, the ABC robot is shooting at him. Now, Fergie takes one major shot in the stomach, chest area, and lives, which is impossible because there's a scene where Stallone is standing with his gun. He's shooting back at the robot, but behind him, you see where the robot has shot, and there's big holes in the wall. I mean, they're like triple fist size holes in the wall, concrete walls. So those rounds would have ripped Fergie in half. But anyway, he lives, of course, but that was just one of my main complaints on that scene right there. But Judge Hershey and one of the other doctors, they have a fight played by Joan Chen. She's really cute in this movie. Doesn't have much to do, but then of course Stallone and Rico, they have their fight, and they did a pretty good job of getting Armand Desante back in the gym because they got the both. I mean, him and Stallone looked really good, physique wise. They actually look like they really could have been brothers, as far as, looks and whatnot. So I don't know how much he had to do to get into the gym, but he did a good job. But all in all, I think the movie is really good. I would have loved to see a Stallone version of it if he would have directed it. But sad to say he didn't. So, of course, I don't know if he had ever thought of directing the movie, but Danny Cannon stepped in. And I like Cannon as a director. He's decent. And this movie was it's just a fun movie, you know. Like I said, and the other DVD, sorry, the other review, I didn't know that much about the character before the movie came out, so I can't say I was like a diehard fan of the comic book because I didn't know anything about it. So whatever further complaints some of the fans have, I didn't have those concerns. So I like the movie, and I'm a big fan of Stallone. So you know, maybe that's why. But I thought that the script was decent. The music is really good. The score really decent. The acting for what it was, it's pretty good. I thought at certain times Armando Santi kind of overdid it, but I like it. Uh, don't go into this trying to compare the two, although of course, there's always going to be comparisons. I've made some myself, but I still like this one better than the Carl Urban version, you know. And maybe that's because I like Stallone, or I saw this one first, or I don't know. But this one just looks more futuristic. Just has a grimy and dirty feel to it. The Carl Urban version just looks just like a everyday, nothing special to it, you know. And my only, to be honest, I think the only reason why people like the Carl Urban version is because it's more bloody. But I don't care about blood and guts, you know. To me, the blood and guts doesn't make the movie good, you know, because I saw it and it still wasn't good to me, you know. But I'm not a big Carl Urban fan either, anyway, so maybe that's why. But all in all, I like this movie a lot, and that's my 2 cents for what it's worth. Okay, guys, signing off.